basically, you pry this off. Notice it's unplugged. You open this up here, and then what happens is that then you can pry this. See that little alligator mouth kind of? And you can pull that out. You come over here, and then that kind of pries. And so when it's not in, I'll show you. You can kind of pry it. So what you take, so this sandpaper is pretty much it's almost smooth. So you take a sheet of sandpaper. This is 60 grit. 60 grit is a pretty rough sandpaper. 80 grit would be a little less rough. 100 grit would be a little less rough than that. 150 grit would be a little less rough than that. Up to 220 grit, which is about as far as you would go for a normal woodworking project. But you can go up to 320. Some woodworkers do like going that hard. So you fold it back and forth. With this 60 grit, it wants to kind of find you take a nice sharp edge of a table, and you just kind of pull straight down. So then I'm going to fold it again, so you want to quarter it. This is by far the most cost-effective sandpaper. So for any of you out there who want like an electric sander, you can pick one of these up used for very inexpensive. I was just kind of, if you find one, you can probably get one for $10 on $5 on Craigslist or something like that. And this sandpaper is also the most cost-effective. There's a lot of orbital sanders out there right now, where it's a circular piece of paper, and that ends up being a little more costly, but one of the advantages is that it's easier and faster to change out, and so you can more quickly change between grits of sandpaper, so 60 grit, 80 grit, 120 grit. So what you're seeing is it's a little bit of a finesse as you're first doing it, but once you do it once or twice, you'll get the hang of it. So you kind of fold it in, and you fold that in there. You'll fold that in there, and then you'll push that back. You'll push that back, and now you're ready. One thing that's very important when you're sanding, so you can see here, this is just a piece of wood. Actually, I think it's a painted piece of wood, but the grain of the wood is this way. So you always want to go with the grain. You never want to sand with an electric sander or hand sanding against the grain, or else it'll make scratch marks. So you always go with the grain, long, smooth motions. And this 60 grit, this will knock down a lot of texture. If you're ever using old wood, you really want to make sure it's tested for lead. You want to use a respirator, not just a simple dust mask. But yeah, so that's the gist. And then you just turn it, you'll plug it in, you'll turn it on, and then just with the grain. Do this always outside because of sawdust. Okay.